Albany woman charged with shooting a man to death pled guilty yesterday to manslaughter in Lynn County Court. 36-year-old Melissa Haley and her 12-year-old.
Maybe if I turn everything on. Hey, Ben, are you there?
Sure am.
All righty. Hang on just a second. And John, say hi to Ben.
Hey, Ben, how you doing?
I'm well, John. How are you?
Okay.
Doing good.
Hang on just a second. We're going to go to air here.
Since October 10th, when she'll probably get 20 years. An Albany man was sentenced in federal court yesterday after pleading guilty to passing counterfeit $100 bills at the Spirit Mountain Casino. 43-year-old Eric Willem got time served plus 9 days. Willem's alleged co-conspirator, Terry Connor, also of Albany, pled not guilty and will be tried in December. The Secret Service says the men had spent $1,700 of the phony money at the casino and then were caught by a police officer outside in the parking lot. An Albany man who is collecting signatures for 2 new ballot measures was found not guilty of violating elections laws. A complaint was filed against Tom Cordier for his efforts to put measures on the ballot that would limit the amount of money the city of Albany is allowed to spend without getting voter approval first. However, whether the measure would require 50% of all eligible voters or just a simple majority of the people who bother to vote was a matter of some confusion. Gary Richards of Albany said that Cordier had misled people by saying the measure would not require a supermajority when it does. But the state elections division said there was insufficient evidence that Cordier broke the law. Cordier says he's used to people opposing him.
They will look for a way to find that petition invalid.
I'm Mark Burkhoven, KGAL.
Valley Talk on News Talk 1580 KGAL.
And a very good morning. It is Tuesday, beautiful day here in the Mid-Willamette Valley, and 25th of September. I'm Dave Adams. John Gibson was with me in studio. John, thanks for being with us
Yeah,
today.
good morning.
We're going to talk about some financial things, and, we'll try to find some pleasing things to talk about in the world of finance and economy and stock market and so on and so forth. On the phone right now is Ben Prey. Now, Ben is with the Oregon Department of Housing and Community Services. We're going to be talking to Ben Prey about a new foreclosures resources website, and they've also added 26 foreclosure counselors across the state of Oregon. So if you are facing foreclosure, or that's a possibility in your future, you might want to listen to this program. If you miss it, or you know somebody who's needs help in that area, you can go to our website, KGAL.com, and we will have the program in video and audio for you later on to talk about that. We're going to be talking to Ben about what the foreclosure picture looks like, and then what's available to help homeowners or those facing foreclosure. We're going to talk about that during the first half of the show, and then John Gibson and I will be talking about other issues: financial, Middle East, stock market, what's going on with QE.
Three.
Okay. He's the financial guy. I just push the buttons. A couple of other things we want to talk to you about is the Quiznos, Taste on Us. Don't forget to sign up for that, and send me an email, dave@kgal.com, or call KGAL and get your name in the drawing. At the end of the show, we will draw for a $10 gift certificate from Quiznos in Albany, and that's good for any merchandise in the store. That's sandwiches or chips or drinks or whatever you want. So you can give KGAL a call at 541-926-8683, 541-926-8683. Do want to mention one of the things we're going to start doing on the show is if you have a nonprofit and you've got a car wash, dog wash, kid wash, whatever you got going on, let us know about it, and we'll mention it, maybe even book you as a guest on Valley Talk. One of the things I've got going on is October 6th, a Christian ministry that I oversee, the Jesus Network, TJN, is going to be having hot air balloon rides in the Lebanon area. Still working on an exact location. It's going to be $10 a head. We're going to be riding Mothra, and that's a balloon that is based in Albany, so looking forward to that. If you want information about that, you can go to our website at www.tjn1.tv, tjn1.tv. So that's what's going on. And again, if your nonprofit organization has got something going on, I'd like to hear about it. And let us know about it. You can send me an email at dave@kgal.com, and we'll talk about it here at Valley Talk. And we'll also talk about possibly bringing you on as a guest on the show. So that's a couple of things that we want to mention. comments on the show or otherwise, again, Dave at KGAL.com. Ben Prey with the Oregon Department of Housing and Community Services. Welcome once again to Valley Talk.
Thanks for having me.
Let's take a snapshot. What's going on with the issue of foreclosures in Oregon? Have we reached the bottom? Are there still a lot of notices of foreclosure going on? Just give us a broad stroke picture.
Sure. Well, right now is a really interesting time because there had been really record numbers of foreclosures being filed as we started the new year, and those were all what most Oregonians think of the traditional way of having foreclosures filed, which is non-judicial, so that's through mail notices. But then there was a pretty important ruling at the Oregon Court of Appeals called the NIDE ruling, and that seems to have changed things considerably for servicers, or rather lenders. So now we're seeing an increase in judicial foreclosures after a real pause. And in July and August, there were really almost no foreclosures in the state as servicers and lenders were sort of trying to figure out how they were going to proceed. And also there's the new mediation program, which sort of gummed things up a little bit, I think, for them as well. So it's an interesting time because we know that there's more than 30,000 people that are behind on their mortgage or in default of their mortgage. But the mechanisms that lenders are using to proceed with foreclosures are really changing here in Oregon. So it's a pretty interesting time.
Very much so. There's a new website that the state of Oregon has just put online to help people that are facing this. Let's talk about that.
Sure. So part of the thing was back in May, our agency, Oregon Housing Community Services, received some funding from a national mortgage settlement. And really it was to help support the mediation program as that program got off the ground and also to help homeowners. So that was for increased availability of counseling and better outreach, and then also increased access to legal assistance. So the goal here is to have a website that says, okay, there's the settlement, there's the hardest hit funds, there's HARP, there's HAMP, there's this new mediation program, there's this kind of foreclosure and that kind of foreclosure. So what we're trying to do is put all the information in one place from a trusted source so homeowners can read through it and understand it a little bit better. And if they don't understand it, then they know how to find a counselor to get help.
Speaking of counselors, you have more of those on staff. Let's talk about how many new counselors you have, what their job is.
Sure. Well, before the May appropriation, there was around 20 counselors throughout the state, and something that we heard a lot was if somebody needed to see a counselor, A, maybe they didn't know what it was for, and B, even if they did, they couldn't really get an appointment because the services are in such demand. So the website should solve the first problem so people can watch a little short video and find out what counseling is and what it does. And then hiring 26 new counselors throughout the state should help towards the second issue of the sort of supply and demand problem. One thing we're trying to do now is we're going to get as many elements of counseling online as possible. So if there's videos we can produce or things that can respond in real time to help homeowners so they don't even have to go in anywhere, that's certainly part of our goal as well. So the website's main function is to be sort of a one-stop shop, but counselors are the real, the folks who can really provide the most help.
John Gibson is with us in the studios. John, do you have any questions?
Well, I'm a simple guy. Basically, what I saw happen was a lot of people got loans for homes that shouldn't have qualified in the beginning, and that created this problem. And now we're trying to take the air out of the balloon. And I believe the problem was, Ben, that the banks were just rubber stamping default notices and not going through the document process properly, right? And that's why you had to create this kind of a system to slow it down so that the banks weren't just taking advantage of the people on the outside on the way going out also. Is that correct?
Well, that's certainly part of it. I mean, our goal is to help homeowners and to help them. I mean, the goal of most programs, including the Hardest Hit Fund program, is to prevent foreclosures, right? Everybody acknowledges that foreclosures affect a whole community adversely.
It's a bad thing.
It's a bad thing. Foreclosures aren't good. And so our goal is to prevent foreclosures, although in some cases the goal of a foreclosure counselor is actually not to prevent a foreclosure. It's to say, you know what, you can't afford this house. Let's talk about, ways that you can gracefully exit that home. So a counselor isn't supposed to be there to sort of preserve the dream of homeownership no matter what. Their job is to help homeowners understand the options that are available to them. And I think an important thing when you think about the servicers and their sort of role or the homeowners and their role in maintaining their contract with their home is that for a lot of folks, as the sort of the economic times changed, and they thought about how do you get a modification, a lot of the programs encourage them to fall behind on their mortgage. So you fall behind 1 or 2 or 3 months, and then perhaps you're eligible for a HAMP program. Well, then many times they'd fall behind, and then instead of being able to get in that program, they were being foreclosed on.
Right.
So having a counselor is somebody who, if you can imagine having faxed in some application dozens of times or having to record your phone calls with some person after person after person, you're frustrated, your house is your most valued asset, and you feel like it's being taken from you. So a counselor can really just sort of slow things down and talk you through something because they're sort of the experts on it. So I think the servicers would probably acknowledge that they weren't prepared for the amount of applications they were going to receive for a lot of these assistance programs. So having a professional sort of walk a homeowner through it is a win for both the servicer and the homeowner.
This next question might be a bit subjective, but you raised a good point. Initially, when everything started to fall apart, people were being given some bad advice, quite frankly, and go ahead and fall behind on your home loans, and then it'll qualify you for the program. Meantime, what was going on was the other track where the bank was just starting foreclosure procedures, and while there were 2 tracks of things going on, dual track, where they were trying to get into the HEMP program, and the bank was starting foreclosure proceedings. Is that dual track still allowed or not?
Well, it's a great question, and that was really one of the big reasons that the Senate Bill 1552 was passed. It was anticipated to sort of end that dual track, because before you could be foreclosed on, you'd have the opportunity to sit down with a mediator and a decision maker from the servicer, right? So it's not going to be somebody who's just sort of there. It's going to be somebody who has the authority to say, thank you, okay, I can see that you can afford your mortgage. I'm going to get you into one of these modification or refinance products. So that hasn't happened because those mediations aren't, for the most part, aren't happening because servicers have pursued judicial foreclosure. So as far as is the dual track still happening? Well, not really in Oregon because there's not many foreclosures that are happening. As we start to see these judicial foreclosures turn back on, it'll be really interesting to see how are the servicers handling their other workout options at the same time.
Okay, we're throwing some terms out here. Judicial foreclosure, define that for us.
So judicial foreclosure is when if the owner of the home, or rather the note holder, instead of foreclosing through letters and notice of default, they're going to go to court. And usually when that happens, the homeowners typically don't even actually go and contest it. The process can be tricky, it can be time-consuming, it can be expensive, so it can be a challenge for homeowners, and it can take a long time and be pretty time-intensive for the courts as well.
Is that the track we're using now?
Well, that's the track that the majority of the major servicers have indicated that they're going to use now, and over the next couple months, we'll see how that is hitting kind of the court systems throughout the state. So we know that the non-judicial foreclosures have grounded to a halt, and they've indicated that now they're going to pursue judicial. So you would think that there would be sort of a pent-up, supply of foreclosures that we're going to now go through this new track. But really, the judicial foreclosure process hasn't been used really since the 50s, at least not for the kind of volume it's going to be used now. So it'll be a pretty fascinating few months to see how does this affect the court systems when they get all these new filings.
If a homeowner is staying current on his loan, he's pretty good shape, isn't he?
Yeah, that's it. And but the interesting thing is there are actually a lot of programs available for people who are current as well, because a lot of people sort of rob Peter to pay Paul, just trying to stay current on their mortgage, and it's not sustainable. And then when they fall behind, or if there's some sort of issue that happens, some sort of illness, or somebody gets laid off, then there really aren't any other rocks to turn over if you want to stay in your house. So there are programs out there for people who are eligible, who are currently current on their mortgage.
What defines a person that should start being concerned? If they're 1 month behind, 2 months behind, maybe they were behind for 2 months, they've caught up, and they have this kind of seesaw back and forth as they're trying to say, as you say, rob Peter and pay Paul, which is going on. They kind of juggle their bills, and this month they pay this one, and next month they pay the other one, and kind of have this revolving, spin the bottle and see who gets paid this month.
Well, the biggest thing is that if you go to see a foreclosure counselor, and hopefully in the next few months we'll have a lot of this online, they've got some pretty simple equations they use to look at to say, can you afford your house right now? What is the sort of threshold that you can do to support this mortgage payment every month? And if you sit down and sort of honestly look at your bills as it's happening every month, then they're going to be able to help you understand, is it sustainable? So that's the big thing. But what's sort of fascinating is that for the mediation program for Senate Bill 1552, it's eligible, or it's available for people that have non-judicial foreclosures, and then it's also available for anyone who feels they're at risk. But the term at risk was never defined. So at risk is actually just defined by the homeowner, anybody who just thinks they're at risk. So that's been a little bit of a point of debate or contention with the servicers that wasn't defined.
John, do you have any questions of Ben before we go to break? We're going to continue to talk about this in a minute. By the way, listeners, if you have any questions, email me at dave@kgal.com, and we'll include the questions with Ben.
I'm just curious, is this a brand new program, or how long has this program been in existence?
Well, the mediation program just became law here in July,
okay,
and it had quite a bit of kind of attention paid to it because it's a big deal. It's a big deal for Oregon to make such a program, and there's going to be a lot of discussions over the next few months about whether or not it's worth trying to put some teeth into the law to make it also work for judicial foreclosures, right? So if the servicers or lenders are now doing judicial foreclosures, do you make mediation mandatory for that as well? That's going to be the big question.
Okay, we're talking to Ben Prey, Oregon Department of Housing and Community Services. We're talking about the issue of foreclosures in Oregon and what's available now for new resources for homeowners that are faced with that scary possibility. And we'll be talking more about that in just a moment. This is Valley Talk. I'm Dave Adams. Don't forget to sign up for the Quiznos Taste on Us. Send me an email, dave@kgal.com. Put Quiznos Taste on Us in the subject line, or give a call to KGAL at 541-926-8683, 926-8683, and say you want to put your name in the Quiznos drawing for Taste on Us. With John Gibson, I'm Dave Adams. This is KGAL's Valley Talk, and we'll be right back.
When you look out across Willamette Valley, you'll see plenty of banking choices. But we're here to give you an option that's pretty unique, like no other, in fact. Hi, I'm Dave Wood, President and CEO of Willamette Community Bank. We provide an alternative to large national and regional banks by offering customized financial services and local decision-making to benefit local people, local families, and local businesses. How many banks can say that? Willamette Community Bank, service like no other, we promise. Member FDIC.
The Willamette Master Chorus presents the 2012-2013 season. There will be 6 performances of 3 different concerts. The season will highlight the theme, The French Connection, with music from France, as the chorus prepares for a concert tour in France during the summer of 2013. The Veterans Weekend concert, In Remembrance, will feature Duraflé's Requiem, with additional music celebrating and honoring veterans and their families. Next up will be the festive holiday concert, Christmas Mass and Carols from France, with special guest performers. Then in February, the chorus is joined by several outstanding guest soloists. The Willamette Master Chorus is the Mid-Valley's premier choral ensemble, bringing you the finest in choral master works. As a season ticket holder, you receive a 10 to 15% discount. Pick up a brochure at Keith Sandberg's State Farm Insurance in downtown Albany, or the Willamette University Music Office, or link to their website from kgal.com or kshow.net. The Willamette Master Chorus, under the direction of Dr. Paul Clemmy.
When you need the job done, you want the powerhouse of engineering, reliability, and value that is Kubota. And right now, during Kubota's 40-year strong celebration, you can get 0% APR financing on select new B-Series tractors with a premium diesel engine, mid-PTO, and hydrostatic transmission. Join the Kubota movement. Go to Kubota.com or see Lynn Benton Tractor in Silverton or Tangent. Kubota is 40 years strong, serving the American dream. And Lynn Benton Tractor is still doing business the American way.
We're kicking off the season with the best deals of the year. It's the Built Ford Tough Truck event. Time to get the most for your money with Ford F-Series. Great power and amazing fuel economy means no compromises. And that's what you get in a truck built Ford Tough. Like Ford F-150. With a powerful and efficient EcoBoost engine, you get the power you want and the economy you need. Or Ford Super Duty with its amazing 6.7-liter Power Stroke turbo diesel. Super Duty's got everything you need to get the job done, and then some. So if you're looking for power, payload, towing, and economy, your local Ford store has got the truck that's right for you. And with Built Ford Tough Truck Event deals, there's never been a better time to buy. We're talking big-time savings on a huge selection of America's best-selling trucks. If you're ready for a great deal on a new Ford F-150 or looking to get to work in a new Ford Super Duty, this is your chance to save. So don't miss the Built Ford Tough Truck Event going on now at your local Ford store.
Want to really know more? Just point, click, and learn from the Mid-Valley's best website, KGAL.com.
Back on Valley Talk once again, Ben Prey with us with the Oregon Department of Housing and Community Services. We're talking about the new website that the state of Oregon has. They've also added 26 foreclosure counselors around the state, and the money for that came from a national mortgage settlement. Ben, how much money was received from that, and how long can we continue to deploy these 26 additional counselors?
Well, the funds came, $30 million came to Oregon unrestricted that went straight to the general fund. And that's why, so after this settlement was reached, the banks had to hold in reserve some, I think, around $250 million they had to get to homeowners in Oregon through workout programs. And then $30 million came to the state, which was unrestricted, went to the general fund. So once it was in the general fund, our department went to the legislature in May, and that's how we got the funding for the counselors. So the counselors are going to have been hired for 1 full year. We, along with the Department of Justice, anticipated that it'd be sort of a 3-year program. So we'll be going back to the legislature to say, here's how it went, here's how many counselors we employed, and how well it went, and how many we need for the next couple of years.
So I just to be clear, did the money come from the banks, or did the money come from the federal government?
Yeah, so it's a settlement. So it's from the banks for unlawful practices on their part. So every state in the nation receives settlement funds. And Oregon's sort of cut of it was $30 million unrestricted. And it's pretty interesting. If anyone's interested, you can look and see what other states did with their funds and see sort of different political climates in each state. It's pretty fascinating to see which states just sort of swept the funds completely and which sort of gave it to foreclosure prevention programs.
Now, Ben, the counselors, how deep can they go in the counseling project? In other words, we were talking off mic about some property that John is working on that's kind of stuck in the legal system. Are the counselors limited to just talking about their budget options and let's take a look at your monthly budget and see whether you can afford to? Can they give legal advice, which they probably shy away from, but just how much advice and what can they talk to them about?
Well, the big thing they can do is sort of with the homeowners, they can call a servicer with them, so they may have contacts at certain servicers. They're really familiar with the programs and the processes. So, it's not like, counseling sort of elicits an image in your brain about somebody just sort of talking to you, whereas what's really happening is there's a plan. It's you're working with somebody, you're looking at your finances, you're putting together applications, you're calling your servicers. So it's, there's a great deal of work that could happen with each counselor. When they do get into legal territory, hopefully they're going to be having some more lawyers or attorneys to refer people to. I think I mentioned earlier that the legislature appropriated about $400,000 to our agency to increase access to legal assistance in the state. So you can imagine a scenario where you'd go in, you'd start talking, and they'd say, geez, Dave, this really seems like something that a lawyer needs to talk to, and I'm going to refer you to Bob or whomever. So that's sort of how we're envisioning it, is that the counselors are going to have some sort of hot-button issues that they've been trained on, and they know they can refer people directly to an attorney for.
How soon, you may not have the answer to this question, but what is the foreclosure, if you had this answer to this next question, you might be making a whole lot more money than you are. But what does the future look like as far as additional homes coming on the market? Let's say we're using the judicial foreclosure prospect now, so that's slowing down the number of homes that actually come on the market, correct?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. So we're not expecting, if that continues to be the case, we shouldn't have a flood of foreclosed homes on the market like we did when everything fell apart.
I think it'd be highly unlikely. I mean, I'd be really curious to hear, another person who has that expertise, and I think that's the big question, is now that all these homes are going to go through the judicial foreclosure process, how long is that going to take to have a resolution? And I don't think anybody has the answer to that right now.
Tips that people that are they looking possibly, maybe they're just right on the edge of their budget, and there's a question about whether or not, the husband or the wife or whatever their home situation is, maybe their job's kind of hanging in the balance, and so they're really they can pay their budgets now, they can pay their bills now, but, if the man of the household loses his job, then they're immediately in a crunch situation. When should they come to you and start talking about things?
Well, I think they should go to going back to this whole concept of at risk, right? If anyone feels they're at risk, well, there's resources out there to help you out and sort of talk you through it. And one example is the hardest hit fund. So in 2010, Oregon got $220 million, and there were no programs developed. It was just as part of the TARP bailout. And the idea was get this money out to Oregon and help prevent foreclosures. So different programs were created, and right now there's actually 3 programs that you could apply for. And they all serve completely different audiences. So one is for people that have anybody in the household that's receiving unemployment insurance. If someone's on unemployment, we'll pay their mortgage for a year. Another program is available for people who have any arrearages, but they're working. So you say, geez, I'm working now, but I have 3 or 4 or 5 months of back payment, or because, I had lost my job or my wife got sick or whatever happened. Well, that program will pay up to $20,000 to pay off the entire arrearages. And then in 2 counties, in Deschutes and Jackson, we have an additional program that will actually purchase your home through a short sale and resell it to you. And so you can have a principal reduction. And in many of those homes, we've had principal reductions of around $100,000. So the point is that there are programs out there for all these much different sort of audiences of homeowners, because there are so many different situations and different homeowners in Oregon.
Just last week you announced this website and the additional counselors. How much activity is there? Are they busy? Are people, knocking down your door, ringing your phone off the hook?
Well, actually, I've been asking that, and the counseling agencies they're steady, but they're certainly not as busy as we want them to be. I think we'd actually be more comfortable if they were, experiencing a great deal of traffic right now. We want to make sure people know that resource is out there. So there's certainly, if anybody needs the help, there's counseling agencies in every county in the state. So now's a great time to call.
Why don't you think they're calling?
Well, I think we've just got to get the word out more and let people know about what it is, and sort of, if there is a stigma, we've got to sort of try and take that off, and we've got to let people know what they're going to get out of the deal. So, we've launched a website, and we've launched sort of the availability of counselors, but I don't think a lot of people really know what foreclosure counseling is. And keep in mind, it's a brand new practice, really. A lot of the foreclosure counselors just a couple of years ago were actually pre-purchase counselors. So as the market has changed, so too have the programs and some jobs in the area too.
Closing thoughts, Ben. What's the website once again, and what would you like to leave us with?
Well, so the website is www.oregonhomeownersupport.gov, and I think the point is I've been here at Oregon Housing for 2 years, and I feel like every day I learn about another program or another resource that's out there. Sometimes it's a nonprofit, sometimes it's a sort of something from the faith-based community, sometimes it's a federal program or a state program or something from servicers. So there are so many things out there to help that if you do need help, make sure you go to a counselor so you can find out more about them.
Okay. Ben, do you have a phone number, or what if people want to call your office, maybe not talk to you directly, how do they do that?
Yeah, sure. Oregon Housing has a customer service number of 503-986-2025, and that's customer service who can help with any of our hardest hit fund programs or refer you to a counselor.
Okay, Ben Prey is with the Oregon Department of Housing and Community Services. I know you're busy, and thank you very much for being with us once again on Valley Talk. Very interesting.
It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Hopefully things will pick up, and we won't need the services of these counselors, and that's what we all hope for.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Valley Talk, I'm Dave Adams, and we are here with John Gibson, and he is our financial guru of sorts.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about issues of finances, the economy, the Middle East, stock market, QE3.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll throw in some personal comments. I'm sure we'll come into line here in just a moment. We're on Valley Talk. I'm Dave Adams, and we'll be back in a moment.
The Osgood File, sponsored in part by LiftMaster Garage Door Openers. Use your smartphone to open or close your garage door anytime, from anywhere. This is Charles Osgood. There's been a lot of talk lately about intrusions by the press into the private lives of Britain's royals. But the royal figure in the development we've asked our CBS News colleague Mark Phillips in London to tell us about has been dead and buried for centuries.
This is the story of a long-lost ancient English king who always had a bad press, Richard III.
That guy, you know about him.
The hunchback, the withered arm, the serial killer, the brutal monster, the ruthless tyrant.
Although he did get off one famous line, of course.
A horse! My kingdom for a horse!
Of course, he didn't really get off that line, did he?
Shakespeare aside, Richard III was killed in battle in the year 1485.
And now, after all these years, archaeologists think they have found his body in a parking lot. The story after this. Every day, it seems, there's something new your smartphone can do. Now, it can open and close your garage door from anywhere in the world. With a LiftMaster garage door opener with MyQ technology, you can use your smartphone or computer to control your garage door from anywhere, anytime, like right now. And LiftMaster garage door openers with battery backup keep your garage door working even if the power isn't. Find a dealer near you at liftmaster.com. Go ahead, look it up on your smartphone.
Call the Glass Doctor, we'll fix your pain. We can handle all of your insurance claims. We're the quickest cure whenever your glass breaks. Call us 7 days a week and we'll be there. Your home, car, or business, or anywhere. Windows, mirrors, tabletops, we'll take good care of you. Call the Glass Doctor, we'll fix your pains. Oh, yeah.
For the nearest Glass Doctor location, call 877-620-8338.
So, Mark Phillips, on with the story.
Richard was unceremoniously buried in a local churchyard that has since become a parking lot.
It's there that they unearthed this battle-scarred skeleton.
A bladed implement appears to have cleaved part of the rear of the skull.
Enter not Shakespeare, but Ibsen, a furniture maker named Michael Ibsen.
It turns out King Richard III was his great-great, count up to 16, uncle.
The phone rings and someone says, yes, I'm a historian. You're related to Richard III. Congratulations.
More or less. I think he probably started the conversation by saying, I'm not a lunatic.
Ibsen has provided a DNA sample, says Mark Phillips.
If it matches the skeleton with the hole in its head, that'll be a good clue it's the real thing.
And so we await the latest word in the unfinished story of Richard III. The Osgood File. Charles Osgood on the CBS Radio Network.
Most of us like our money to earn a good return. This is Leo Smith of Edward Jones. You may be interested in quality insured municipal bonds, perhaps a growth potential offered by quality stocks. In any case, let us help you select investments designed to help you achieve your individual long-term goals. Our goal is your satisfaction. Give me a call at 451-4402 or stop by my office at 56th East Airport in Lebanon. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Hi, this is Shelley Garrett. The Lebanon Chamber of Commerce is excited to bring you the first annual Antique Appraisal Clinic, Saturday, September 29th at Central Willamette Community Credit Union, 625 5th Street. Everyone has something they've always wondered what the value was. An old picture or a book, jewelry, or furniture. We've invited Gary Germer, one of Portland's leading antique, fine art, and personal property appraisers, to come to Lebanon and appraise your collectibles. Thanks to sponsor Central Willamette Insurance Agency and KSHO AM 920, we'll have refreshments, and not only will the audience be entertained by Gary's appraisals, but the show will also be broadcast live on KSHO. Look around the house and bring the items you'd like appraised. The cost is only $5 for 2 items.
This is Gary Germer. Please join me as we appraise Lebanon's treasures Saturday, September 29th.
The Antique Appraisal Clinic, September 29th from 9 a.m. to noon at Central Willamette Community Credit Union, 625 North 5th, across from Pioneer School in Lebanon.
Valley Talk, weekday mornings on News Talk 1580 KGAL.
And this is Valley Talk. John Gibbs are with me in the studios right now. Thanks to Ben Frey for being with us and visiting with us about what's going on with the Oregon Department of Housing and Community Services. And John, we were sitting there listening to Ben and all these programs, HARP and HEMP and, whatever they come into. It's like we're trying to plug the holes of a bucket, and somebody keeps shooting holes in the bucket because the rules change and the situation changes. Like maybe personal situations, you put together a plan And then Mr. Smith loses his job, comes home and says, guess what, dear, I lost my job today. And then all this planning that they've done is for naught, and they've got to kind of restructure and say, okay, now what do we do? A lot of that going on. It's the game is changing.
Well, it's gone from self-reliance to government reliance. I mean, it all started with the idea that everybody deserves a home. Okay, I won't go into the politics of it all, but at one point in time, it became known that everyone deserved to own a home. So you got these loans that you didn't have to prove your income, you didn't have to prove all that stuff, and so you took people who knew it was too good to be true, but they jumped on board anyway. And now they're in the pickle that they knew they were going to get into. And instead of saying, okay, it's time to downsize, get rid of your home and go get an apartment and start over, we're trying to keep everybody where they're at. That's all these quantitative easings that President Obama did. I had never heard of an economic stat called jobs saved, ever, before President Obama. But the first stimulus was a bunch of money to the states because, like Oregon is broke, we were gonna have to lay off teachers and firemen and police, and that the unemployment was going to get even worse. So to stop that, we did QE1, which was flood the money with states, and so for a year we kept all of our teachers. Now, do you notice that we're still having the budget problems that we had before? And now we're talking layoffs for teachers, and you're seeing in Wisconsin and in other states where they're trying to redo the public pension plans. So we've kicked the can as far as we can. Same thing with these people. Folks, if you can't afford your house, the simple fact is you don't need anyone to tell you. You got to go get an apartment, get a second job, start over. You should have an 8-month emergency fund saved in the bank. You shouldn't have, a boat. I mean, you got to get realistic, and we have to come back to sense. I'm on the board of directors with a guy named Bud Barnes. Bud was a logger and a mill worker, and he started Limco Credit Union. I'm sorry, Bud, to say this, but you have to be in your 70s, because I know you came through the Great Depression. You know how many weeks this man was on unemployment his entire life? 1 week of unemployment. We have people now 99 weeks of unemployment. And most of the jobs come in your last couple of months of unemployment. Once you know it's getting cut off, you go and get a job. So we're making it too easy. I hate to say this, but we're babysitting people. And instead of saying, hey, you did something wrong, pick yourself up and learn from it.
Walk away from your house and go get an apartment.
Well, yeah. I mean, take responsibility for the mistake that you made. Don't go to the government and say, I made a mistake, bail me out. That's the whole problem with this whole economic system that we have. It's just throw more money at it, and we're going to do it again. And honest to God, the new QE3 is called Operation Screw. I'm not making that up.
Why did they come up with that name?
I think it's because they're buying mortgage-backed securities, and there's, screws and nails in homes. And so it just represents the article that they're buying. The second one, the quantitative easing 2, was called Operation Twist. And what they were doing was taking Treasury dollars and buying like 10-year notes and 5-year notes to artificially keep the interest rates low so that the home mortgage rates were artificially low, hoping that people would swarm in and buy property. But people don't have jobs, and so they're not swarming in to buy the properties. Even though the guy from Lennar, a huge home builder, they build luxury homes, he came out today and he said things are looking much better in the housing market. But that doesn't help foreclosed properties.
I think what everybody's looking for right now is the Middle East. President Obama spoke to the UN, had strong words for everyone, trying to say, okay, everybody's going to play nice in the sandbox. But the problem, at least I see, and some, for people that, what may start happening here on the program for the next few minutes is that John and I might start sharing our personal opinions, because what do we think is going to happen? We're dealing with two factions in the Middle East that have been fighting for 2,000 years. And the Arabs simply do not want Israel to exist.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. And peaceful coexistence, I don't think, is in the vocabulary of Palestine. They want to rub Israel off the face of the earth. And that's a problem, because you've got a bully in the sandbox that says, I'm going to take the other guy out. How do you feel about it? It's real interesting, because if war breaks out in the Middle East, the things that are going to happen on the stock market would be nobody knows.
Right. So here's how and this is not just my personal view, but this is what I hear on news channels. And I tend to watch Fox Business News, they have more economists on there versus politicians. So we now know that Iran is channeling weapons through Iraq to Syria. So Iraq now has kind of been taken over by Iran. You have two different groups of Muslims, Shiites and Sunnis.
Right.
And so that Israel aside, they don't like each other. You know, they have different views of Muhammad, and I'm not going to go. I have no idea exactly what it is, but they don't like each other.
Correct.
So when they get tired of fighting each other, they're going to turn to Israel, whoever dominates. And if you look at the map of all the uprisings, it's a donut hole, and right in the middle is Israel. So if we're not sending a very strong message that we're behind Israel. You know, we refused to meet with Netanyahu. President Obama finally canceled his face-to-face with the president of Egypt, who's a Muslim Brotherhood guy named Mosiah, I believe his last name is. But I get this strange feeling that President Obama feels like if we kick Israel under the bus and continue to placate and say that what happened in Libya was not a terrorist attack, that this is all going to go away. And clearly his foreign policy is putting lots of people in danger, not just Israel, but us. I mean, we don't need a nuclear bomb on the ground to hurt us. What they want to do is detonate an atomic bomb 20 miles above ground and wipe out our electrical grid. Your car will come to a halt on the highway. Nothing will work. That's the problem. That's what we have to look at. That's their ultimate thing. Now, they're not very sophisticated, per se. What they're really talking about is taking old vessels, filling them with concrete, and towing them out in the middle of the Straits of Hormuz and sinking them to block 20% of the world's
shipping.
Oil flow.
Right.
That's what they're threatening if Israel attacks Iran. Now, we came out and didn't say we are 100% behind Iran. The exact quote that Obama used yesterday was, Israel is one of our stronger allies in the region. What?
What does the stock market think of all this?
The stock market doesn't care until something happens. You know, I've been in the exchange. I mean, it's their own little world. When something happens, then they have programs set up, high-frequency programs, to take care of any kind of world affair, you know. It just takes a trigger of oil over 100 to set off some kind of a trading program for some other issue. I mean, it's crazy.
Don't they suspend those electronic buying and selling if it goes too much?
They do have, yeah.
They do have fail-safes.
They're called circuit breakers.
Okay.
Yeah, and they'll shut down for like 5 minutes and then come back open. And if it drops another 5%, then they stop for an hour. And what they're trying to do is align buyers and sellers, because there's no sellers or there's no buyers. There's something wrong. And so they just take a time out. It's like an angry child, you know. But, yeah, they do have that. But it doesn't matter. I was there in 1987. You know, I had my money in the market, and half of it was gone. You know, half of it was gone. So when I start to see things like what's going on now, and I see 4 more years of appeasement, I don't have the greatest faith that we're going to be dominant. You know, we're already 7th as far as economies go. I mean, not economies, but we'll just leave it there.
Sure.
But we're slipping. You know, Isaac Asimov wrote this book, and one of the lines in it was, civilizations deteriorate really slowly. You know, look at your roads, look at your bridges, look at the economy, look at how things aren't 4% GDP growth, you know. So I think the market is nervous. The market wants Romney. His 3 biggest donors are J.P. Morgan, Citigroup, and I think it was Bank of America. President Obama's three biggest donors, this is like 3 weeks ago, was University of California, Microsoft, and then Google. So you have financial people on one side and pretty liberal folks. I mean, Microsoft and, Redmond, Washington, I'm sorry, it's a liberal hotbed. So those are the two factions, and I'm on the side of Wall Street.
What do we do about the national debt? We're on the spending binge here in the United States. Well, Dad's credit card is pretty maxed out, and nobody wants their program cut. And that is a political time bomb for whoever wants to get into Washington, D.C. and say, okay, well, entitlements, Social Security, or whatever. We need to have some equitable cuts, but nobody wants their program cut, and that's the $64,000 question. How do you reduce spending and not cut into a sacred cow? That's a difficult question.
I think you have to have skin in the game. And I'll use Hostess, Twinkies, as an example.
Okay.
Last week, the CEO came out on TV and he said, the union has to vote to accept our offer. If they don't accept it, then we're shutting the doors. There's no night coming in to buy the store. Okay, now in return, the union gets 25% of the company, 2 seats on the board of directors, and 1 seat on a planning commission. So now, the union is actually in there having to decide, how do we pay all of our pensions and make a profit to our shareholders? Because now we're on the board of directors, and we have to make a profit. It's not just gimme, gimme, gimme. That's how you do it. You take people's retirement. Anybody my age or over, I'm 52, nothing's going to change for you. Just stop worrying and stop listening to the people that are trying to scare you. Younger people, like 30-year-olds, they should have the option of putting their retirement into their own self-directed, IRA kind of a program, to where they're making their donations. The problem with what we have in today is, like, the public unions. They don't pay their own health care. They don't pay their own retirement.
So they don't have skin in the game.
So they don't care.
To be quite honest, there's a lot of people out there in the United States that probably don't want to put skin in the game. Cut somebody else's program, but don't cut mine. I think what we're going to have to get is a point in this country where we can say, okay, we're all going to have to put some skin in here. We're all going to have to take less than we really want in order to keep solvent. How we're going to force that to happen, I don't know.
Well, you know how it's going to happen?
How's that?
It's going to be an ugly situation. The problem, Margaret Thatcher was a great person, and I was a Democrat at the time, and I did not appreciate how smart Margaret Thatcher was. But the problem, she said, the problem is socialism, and I'm not saying that Obama's a socialist, although I think he probably is. But the problem with the system that we have is that we're going to run out of other people's money, okay? California, from 1990, lost over 4 million people. 4 million more people moved out of California than moved into California. A lot of them went to Texas, where the tax rates are way lower. Same kind of weather, lower taxes. That's what's going to happen. And there's going to come a time where Mike Bellotti doesn't get his $41,000 a month from PERS. And when that time comes, you're going to have riots in the streets.
Okay. We, on that cheery note,
I don't see any other way. I don't see anybody changing it.
Interesting times ahead. Valley Talk, I'm Dave Adams with John Gibson, and we'll take a break and come back in just a moment.
Find sizzling savings from Consumers Power. From energy-efficient lighting to heat pumps and appliance rebates, CPI is your source for energy savings. Take advantage of CPI's rebates, and you'll increase your home's comfort while using less energy. Call CPI today and find out how easy it is to qualify for its energy efficiency rebates. And put some cash back in your pocket. CPI. Smart, local, connected.
The Lebanon Community Trails Committee is a group of volunteers working hard at bringing 50 miles of trails to Lebanon. Join us at free guided trail walks on the second Saturday of each month at 10 a.m. Participate in evening planning meetings on the first Tuesday of each month from 7 to 9 p.m. at the Lebanon Hospital. For details on our next walk or how you can get involved in this exciting community group, find us on Facebook or visit buildlebanontrails.com. Listen to this station for details on our free monthly walks. This message made possible by Consumers Power. Smart, local, connected.
Every so often, the stars are in perfect alignment. And during the Lincoln Certified Pre-Owned Autumn Sales Event, now is that perfect moment. For a limited time, get 0.9% APR on the certified pre-owned Lincoln of your choice, which also comes with the confidence of our 6-year, 100,000-mile comprehensive warranty. The Lincoln Certified Pre-Owned Autumn Sales Event, exclusively at your Lincoln dealer. APR varies by term. Not all buyers will qualify for Lincoln Automotive Financial Services limited term financing. Take delivery from dealer stock by 10/1/12. See dealer for qualifications, limited warranty, and complete details.
I'm Professor Burke from the University of Farmers, where we garnish agents with the parsley of knowledge, and this is a pop quiz. Think fast. A questionably coordinated customer just collided with a vat of lard. Is your business covered for a slip and fall? If you're not sure, come talk to a farmer's agent and we'll help make sure your coverage is as slick as the porky goodness your customer slipped on in the first place.
If you want answers about business insurance, you want a farmer's agent. Find yours at farmers.com. We are insurance.
We are farmers. Bum, ba, bum, 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 bum.
Coverage not available in all states.
Now's your chance to get in on all the hair-raising, action-packed princess fun. Disney on Ice presents Dare to Dream. Watch as Rapunzel lets down her golden hair to tangle with the dashing Flynn Rider and the hilarious Maximus. Go on a mystical adventure through the bayous of Louisiana as Tiana kisses the frog prince Naveen and gets royally jazzed. And become enchanted with Cinderella as she makes her dreams come true. Together for the first time ever, all the Disney princesses you love in a spectacular ice show. Bring your royal family to the ultimate princess event of a lifetime in your hometown. Disney on Ice presents Dare to Dream.
The magic begins at $17 for tickets. Additional fees may apply. See roseporter.com for details. Experience a spectacular Disney adventure at Disney on Ice presents Dare to Dream. Coming to the Rose Garden October 25th through 28th.
Hear the truth and only the truth from your cultural crusader, Michael Medved, on News Talk 1580 KGAL.
This is Valley Talk. I'm Dave Adams. We do want to remind you that we're going to be at the Albany Business Extravaganza. It's going to be happening at the Lynn County Fairgrounds, Albany Area Chamber of Commerce. So we're going to be there, and we're going to be broadcasting live with Valley Talk. Look forward to being there and like to see you there, too. A good chance for you to see what's going on in businesses in the area. That's 1 to 6:30 p.m. is when the event is going to be. And membership forum luncheon 11:30 with Craig Henneman, who is the guest speaker. Pre-registration is required. So that's happening tomorrow. We'll be there. I'd like to see you there.
You know, the nice thing about that is you see, if you've lived here at any time at all, it's like a family reunion or something. You see everybody that you haven't seen for like 6 months. So that's, if nothing else, just go for that.
And I like to going around and talking to the businesses from the local area and just seeing the plethora, that huge number of businesses that are locally. There are some services and products that are available here locally that might surprise you.
And go hungry. I mean, I know the one in Lebanon, Mega Foods, I tell you, they put out a spread, so go hungry.
Let's talk about Apple and Google.
We have two stocks in a race to get to $1,000 a share, and Apple is soon to be the first company ever to be valued at $1 trillion. So let's end on a happy, happy, happy note.
Okay, that's good news.
Yep.
Apple is, take a bite of that apple.
Well, they had a little labor issue. It was down like $15 yesterday. 2,000 employees, I think it was in Taiwan, rioted over work issues and labor stuff. So that knocked the stock down. And the other thing is they sold 5 million new phones, the iPhone 5, I guess it is. And, they only had like 1.5 million, and the new orders won't come out until October. So people were very disappointed. And that's going to affect earnings because now everybody knows that the phones aren't there. So that's why the Apple is down right now. But Apple is real close to $700, I believe, as is Google. I own Google at $720, and I wrote it all the way down to $333, and now it's back to like $750. So I'm in the money now, and I'm getting the heck out.
Apple versus Microsoft. There's that age-old conflict about, do you want to go with the Apple system or the Microsoft system?
The difference between Apple and Microsoft is Apple, every appliance that they come along with new, fits their old appliances, so the iPod works with the iPad and the phone and all that. Right. Microsoft is just this old dinosaur that keeps putting out a different version of the same old thing. And I'm in it for the 2.5-3% dividend, but I've sold half of my position, and the other half I'm going to sell in about a week. I think we got about another 4 or 5 weeks of an up market, and then I think we're going to see October and November. There's a traditional swoon in those months, so I'm kind of heading to the cash sideline.
Do you think that maybe the open operating systems or Apple is going to at some point kick Microsoft off the stool, or maybe already have?
Yes and no. They're going in different directions. Microsoft is happy doing the operating systems and all that, and Apple is just doing their own thing. And once you get hooked on the Apple product, you just can't get back to Microsoft. So I'm much more of a fan of Apple. They just don't pay enough of a dividend, and I was into Microsoft since '94, and so I'm way up, and I'm just looking for a chance to get out.
Okay, that's going to wrap it up for Valley Talk. Join us tomorrow at the Albany Area Chamber of Commerce Albany Business Extravaganza. Stay tuned here to KGAL and our sister station K-Show 920 AM. We'll be there and interviewing maybe you and other businesses and finding out what businesses and services are here in the Mid-Willamette Valley. Enjoy the sunshine. We'll leave you on a cheery note. You have a great day. John Gibson, thank you for being with us. I'm Dave Adams. Make it good.
Your first choice in local news, sports, and smart talk. This is News Talk 1580 KGAL, Lebanon, Albany, Corvallis.
CBS News. I'm Harley Carnes.